a lot of this knowledge. Now, I will ask you, like, what emotion rises in you when you see young refugees struggling to learn, adapt a dream while carrying heavy trauma? Like people living in this kind of condition, battling with trauma, depression, mourning their young ones, mourning their loved ones, but still trying to adapt the system of German or in Italy or across Europe, and also to survive, integrate learning language and trying to know the society. What do you feel?
Well, it's very sad. It's also frustrating in a way, because, like you mentioned, I've tried to support people. I've tried to help people along the way, but often we face so many legal barriers, structural barriers. The whole system is built in a way that is not supportive for these conditions. There's also a huge lack of understanding the situations that we are speaking about now. The majority of the population of policymakers,
Yeah.
they don't even have an understanding of these situations, and their priorities are very different.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite frustrating to know what should be done, but to not have the possibility to really make a major impact. I want to come back to the term of integration that you mentioned. I don't really like to speak about integration, because I think when we mention integration, we have to ask, what do we actually mean? Integration into what?
Yeah.
We live in a globalized world, you see, where societies are in a way recreated constantly. Just like a person is in a constant process of development.
Yeah.
The same way societies are constantly developing. But if we say integration, and it implies integrating into something that is stable, which is not the case. So we can rather ask, how is migration changing societies, but not so much how are people integrating.
So I see, because I think, because the reason why I feel like asking those questions is that mostly here in Germany and inside of this Germany, mostly here in Bavaria, you see people carry trauma, like they are, in short, let me just put it this way, people are wearing trauma like they were wearing trousers or they were wearing perfume. You see, when there are some set of refugees that will pass you, you will smell the trauma. You don't, it's quite obvious, because the type of the stinking trauma that smells alongside with so many of us is so loud. And the problem is the system ignored this trauma. Instead of helping people to tackle this set of trauma, they decided to, to elaborate it in a large form to swallow so many of us. So, and I don't know, and it's something very depressing and something very, very saddening, to the extent that when many refugees start testifying their eyewitnesses and their circumstances in Asylum, it sounds like fiction, and it sounds like they are exaggerating. Many people who lives outside the camp doesn't know about it. And this also makes me wonder, and also wants me to ask you a certain kind of question, because I was one of those people that was taken down so many times through this trauma and depression, through built in Asylum house. But somehow I found my face and I found myself back through cultural performance and despite language barriers. But I found myself in those things. And the next question is going to be, how did culture, you see culture as a weapon of hope. In your encounter with refugee, how have you seen culture, music, language, tradition have become a form of strength to them?
Yeah, but I think just to connect what you mentioned earlier, I think it's really a major problem that there is a huge lack of treatment for trauma. As you said, many people are affected, and there's not really a way for them to manage this. There's as long as people are living in reception centers, and even after that, they mostly don't have the opportunity to receive proper treatment. Of course, there are ways that somebody can also work on this issue by themselves. We discussed before, but there are different degrees of trauma, and I believe that the trauma that people who traveled through the desert and across the Mediterranean Sea went through, it really deserves a professional treatment to be fully dissolved. And this is not available to many people in this situation. And then what we often find, what is really sad to witness, is that, of course, people try to find strategies to deal with it. And very unfortunately, often this is alcohol, drugs, and even social media. Social media is also a way to numb the pain, to numb feelings if there's no other opportunity. So this is something that we have to acknowledge, and something that we really have to identify a need for action in the system. Then, of course, in the most extreme cases, we see violence as some means to
let out the trauma.
And then unfortunately, the media doesn't acknowledge this. They rather turn the narrative around to argue against migration. But I haven't seen any media reportage that acknowledges the need for treatment for trauma. So this is a huge lack in the system. And to come back to your question about culture, artistic means, it's very impressive what you are doing, and you're seeing this is a way for you to deal with your own situation, with your own experiences. And I think it's a great way to do this. The music that you're doing, the writing, the artistic, the theater play, it's very impressive. It's not only sharing your story with the world, raising awareness, but it's also a way to deal with your own experiences. So this is the opposite of the negative means to deal with it that we just mentioned. It's very important. You're sharing your story, and you're encouraging also others to speak about their experiences. I've seen several occasions where you have encouraged others. It's not always easy to encourage them and to keep them on board, but you have managed to do so, and it's really a very good strategy to to deal with trauma and to raise awareness of the experiences that many refugees face.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. I think that is so true because you have already answered my next question because my next question is supposed to fall on the if you have seen any person from this refugee community or somebody um, living outside the asylum house, which he or she have been uplifted or get rid of trauma or substitute the trauma from expanding or growing through the involvement in artistic.
I make a remark. What I sometimes wonder is if it's also, while it's a way for healing, could it also be a way for re-traumatizing if you continue to talk about it, and of course your emotions go into it in order to play a theater in a realistic way. You have to kind of put yourself back into that situation. Do you consider it also as some way of re-traumatizing?
I think I am built different. I think when I isolate myself with this past encounter, it depressed me the more. But I don't know if you could remember during this culture of refugees event, people around me thinks that I was that because after every performance I had, people come to console me. They start rubbing me at my back. They start rubbing me on my head. They start, sending a word of condolence to me. So I could see the pain in them. Even many of them, tears dropped from their eyes. They were not in. They did not encounter what. I would put it this way: they were not there, but they tried to put themselves in my shoe to feel the pain. But me performing it is a way of letting out the trauma. But in other people, saying it often re-traumatize them. But in my own case, also with the book that I told you that I'm writing, more I write, sometimes I shed tears. But that tears is like a kind of a vapor, like when the vapor goes up, you see how dark and how it is on the sky. This tears is like something pain that comes out from my mind that which if I didn't say, the tears will remain inside me and which will mean trauma. Because during this difficult time, I did not cry. I was always staring at people, staring at the sky. I was like zombie. So, but now it's the time that I share tears, and sharing the tears is releasing myself from pain. And sometimes I always try to isolate myself in my room, which, if anytime this happen, I don't want people around me. I don't want to talk about something. I become more depressed. But more I sing it, put it in songs, put it in writing, in book format, put it in acting, I become free. I become a free man that I am today. Not that I'm truly free, but all those artistic things set me a little bit free from those trauma.
Yeah, that's great. It's a process. It happens over time.
So that is why sometimes that's why I also, have an idea of building up this this program to put it into 3 different method. One is podcast storytelling, and storytelling is going to be a section that I have with my fellow refugees, whereby we talks about not being very serious so that they would not be traumatized by what they say, but playfully, and we discuss about it. Is a means of telling people that this is reality, is not a fiction, is a reality, and also having an interview, building it to have a kind of a time whereby we travel across the world, travel across Europe to do interview with people with refugee background to see the side of their own experience, traumas, and what they are passing through with different backgrounds. Okay, involving students with the podcasts, involving refugee with the storytelling, and also the people, the community, the host community of this set of refugee to invite them for an interview to see their own perspective on the thing happening in the refugee community.
Yeah,
That
I
is-
think for people with a refugee background to be part of this program, it can also be a way for them to process their experiences. Many people don't even want to speak about
Yeah.
their experiences, but with you sharing similar experiences, it
Yeah.
would probably be easier for them, and to acknowledge is the first step
Yeah.
for healing.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I don't think this my poem is already. It's not yet out because I always make mention that every professor, every student, every politician or whatever want to engage in something that have to do with migration. And here I came since I came to, it's not so long I came to realize that refugees are not part of my migrants. So they exclude us from migrants. So when they are discussing about migration, they don't discuss about refugee, they discuss about those set of people that they say they are migrants. So I see that there are a lot of discussion going on migration, but there is not much people working on refugees issues, and people that you see, people like you that do it, you don't do it in your as your field of work. You do it as a hobby because you have the spirit of humanity, you want to help people. And this is also how other people who are fighting for refugees are doing it. They go to their work when they have time, they agitate for refugees. So I think, I wake up one day, I say, now is the time for us who passed through this pain to stand on our feet and make it as a topic, because refugee issue is supposed to be a blood topic that people will discuss. And that is why I also want to ask you this question, that how does preserving their culture help young refugees feel seen and valued in a foreign land? Like here we are not being seen. If you are not artistically active like me or some other ways, you are not being recognized. Nobody knows you. So how can act and other many things makes people like me seen, visible, being valued in the society where they live?
Yeah, it's a very good means for being seen and for living a certain culture. Also for young people, it's a good way to connect with the culture of their country of origin, or with the culture of the country where their parents came from. Often there is a disconnect between the two cultures, and young people are often feeling like not belonging to either one culture. In Germany, they are often not considered as full Germans. In the country where their parents come from, they are not considered as belonging, or some of them have not even ever traveled there. So a program like this can be like a bridge between cultures, and it can strengthen people's identity.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I always pray that a that refugee issue get to a point where it will grow to a certain topic that people will discuss, students will discuss. So now I feel good because even university students are beginning to get involved to know more about refugees. That is why I was very happy of Photo Voice, Tanya, and how Tanya is trying to engage students on knowing the refugee issues and so many other things. And also, the question is kids growing up in asylum house or camp. Is how do you see them? What have you personally witnessed about how children grew up in this asylum house or camp in Germany or across Germany?
Well, it's very sad to see that children are even ever accommodated in such places. They should be accommodated in much more convenient places that surround them with safety, with a supportive environment. But being in these reception centers, in some regions Ankerzentren, often they don't even have the right to go to regular schools. And as much as we may criticize the school system, it is still a way to provide a sense of safety in such uncertain conditions. It can also be a place where young people can interact with peers, with German-speaking peers, where they can make friendships and be in a different environment than the depressive environment of the reception centers. It can also be a place where their needs are met better than in such centers. So to keep them out of educational institutions, it's really, it's
across the globe. This letter